Hello and welcome, everybody. Um, it is 6 o'clock and it is the 6 o'clock club. I got the title right this time. I'm improving. And welcome, Christian.
Hello, everybody.
How's your day been?
Oh, it's been fantastic. I've been at work, but work's good. I like work. And I'm excited. I'm excited to ask you lots of questions about Pathfinder 2.
Yeah,
How about you, Andy? How's your day been?
I'm terrified of all these questions that are coming my way.
It's fine. It's
Uh,
fine. I already know where babies come from. I'm not asking that one.
Excellent. We've got a few people jumping into chat straight away. So hi, Broken Fang, and hi, Michael and Sarah, if Sarah's with you. Great to have you on board. And we will be coming on to Pathfinder in a few minutes. Hi, Akara. Don't be asking me questions like that. Storks, I believe, deliver them. They turned up on my doorstep. I've got three kids, so I'm not entirely sure where they do come from, but yeah, I know they're goddamn expensive. Put it like that. Hello, Stuart. Welcome, everybody to the 6 o'clock club. Um, yeah, an interesting day for me. Admin, prepping for this, prepping for tonight's game. Um, and I put a post, another OGL post, sort of reference on Facebook, and that went kind of interesting. Lots of very sort of interesting comments, and I think the community as a whole are beginning to kind of anticipate what it's all about. I'm not going to really cover the OGL tonight as such because it's a big topic. It's changing all the time. But one of the repercussions of that is a lot of people are thinking about trying other systems, which in itself is a very positive thing. Um, so we will be looking at Pathfinder Second Edition tonight. But there's a couple of things I want to talk about first, due to the fact that I kind of want people to jump into the stream so they can ask questions about Pathfinder. So filling time a little bit. So first, obviously, I am running a game tonight. I'm running games most nights. I'm going to start at 7 o'clock, and it is a Dungeons and Dragons game, and it is our Fortunes Untold game. I kind of spoke about it on Monday when I do our coming this week. Very excited by it. Great group of players. We have Roz, we have Felicity, we have Adrian, and we have James. Um, they are into the second tier now, and what is exciting about it's a campaign. Exciting for me. I'm going to show you sort of just a little bit behind the screen for a moment. No spoilers, but I've already ran some of the things they're going to be doing as a mythical game. So those of you who have jumped in and out of mythicals might have actually played it. What is going to be happening, and um, it worked well. So I'm very excited to sort of repeat that content and see how they solve it. For them though, it's not a one shot, so who knows how long it's going to take to sort of do it. There's additional encounters in there. Running one shots, and this is perhaps a discussion for another 6 o'clock club, is how do you in a 3 hour session get that start, middle, and end, and tell an entire story. Um,
I'd like to know that because I've never achieved it.
it's very challenging. I mean, it's a very challenging thing, but I think that might be an interesting topic to cover another time. But it is one of the scenarios that myself and Beamsy, who might be in chat or not, are looking at publishing at some point. All of our publishing is still going ahead. We're just not entirely sure how we're going to do it at the moment. Obviously, we had great plans for the start of the year, as many other people did. And now with the open gaming license issues, we're not sure whether we'll do it as a neutral system. sort of rules, so without rules, but just full of flavour and background that people can easily drop in whatever things they want, or just bite the bullet, do it for fifth ed, or maybe even do it for Pathfinder, or some of these other sort of systems. So we're up in the air, but I'm excited because it's the second time to sort of run it, and the more times you run a number of set encounters, the more you improve on it. You know what's coming up. So I'm excited. One, because I know it's played well before. I'm excited because of the crowd that are going to do it tonight, and I'm also excited because we might be publishing it as well. So that's what
Very
I'm doing
exciting.
from 7 o'clock tonight. So hi guys, if you are prepping and getting ready for that. And then secondly, as we're waiting for people to jump into chat, probably another 5 minutes or so conversations. Talk about last night's game. Last night's game wasn't Dungeons and Dragons. It was, what was it?
Feng Shui or
Yeah,
Feng Shui?
yeah. There we go. And Christian played in it along with Rachel and Ben. So how do you think it went? Did you like it?
Oh, I love it. I mean, full disclosure, Rachel and I played in a game many years ago that you ran a 24-hour session, and we loved it then. And it's so much fun because the system is not constrained by pretty much anything. So, I mean, character creation is really easy because there's just a number of archetypes. And then the archetypes from action films, it's like everyday hero, undercover cop, private investigator, I think mana cop or something like that, sort of magic cop. And there's all these different archetypes. Oh, two-fisted archaeologist,
Yeah,
which is definitely not a certain Indiana Jones. But it's those sort of archetypes. You pick your archetype. You don't need to do anything more than that, and then that's it. When combat happens, you just describe the cool stuff you want to do. So I chose everyday hero, that Kurt Russell type, and one of his abilities is improvised weapon, where you get bonuses if you can describe having an improvised weapon. So I mean, at one point I was fighting some mobsters with a bay tree because we were it was set at a wedding. The system's really easy to learn. You just need 2d6, a positive and a negative die, and you roll them both, and you sort of take the difference between the positive and the negative. And if you've got a negative, then that takes away from your your ability score. And if you get a positive, it adds to it. And there's a difficulty value, but it's all really simple. And there's not much to it. There's no heavy bogged down or what can I do this combat round. It's a case of, well, if you can think about it, and if you've seen action films and you can describe it, you can do it. It was a lot of fun. We had a really good group of people that have seen a lot of 80s action films. Specifically, I can only speak for myself and Rachel, but yeah, we've seen a lot of 80s action films, and yeah, you get to kind of live that fantasy for 3 hours, and as you said earlier, Andy, it's difficult to get that pacing right, but it felt great because there was sort of big combat, and then there was sort of some exposition and investigation, and then there was another combat at the end, and it was paced really well, and
yeah.
there's not much thinking involved other than how am I going to describe this cool stuff I'm going to do.
The foundation of what I ran last night, in all transparency, was one of their convention games, because like I said at the start, I wanted to do something that introduced the mechanics to you. I know you've all played it again, but it's kind of getting reused to them. And I was very impressed of the pacing for that system. It did. I didn't have to fill. It just seemed to flow. The first combat went on a slightly longer than I anticipated, but
I
but
thought it might have
uh,
done.
but reading it, I included two named villains that should only have been in there if there was additional players. So you kind of did it on hard mode. I mean, my favourite moment from it is when you, in effect, crit failed, which is a term that everybody will do. The opening sequence was a fight at a big wedding, and Christian's character Bud crit failed. And he just basically, rather than sort of punishing him, he kind of fell forward, slid across one of the great big wedding tables, and went face splat into like this 13-tiered wedding cake. And then spent some of the game using the cake as an improvised weapon. So
It
it
was
was,
the discs the cake
yeah, yeah,
sits
yeah.
on. Yeah,
I still
I'm
would
not.
have let you use cake for an improvised weapon.
Well, I did cover him in
Yeah,
cake
yeah,
and mud and goodness knows what else. So and beer. So
yeah.
yeah, it was a good
So
night. It was a good night. Wow, just a regular
yeah,
Tuesday night for me.
it was real fun. So we will be doing some more of those very soon.
If anyone gets a chance, I would strongly recommend giving Feng Shui a go.
Mhm.
It is a lot of fun. I mean, we Rachel and I had played it before, but it was years ago, years and years ago, probably about 2013, I want to say.
Yeah.
Um, no, it was earlier than that, actually. It was 2012,
Wow.
2012 or 2011 that I played it. So over 10
10
years ago.
years.
And I've slept since then. And yeah, so the actual knowledge of the rules, other than you maybe roll some dice, it
Mhm.
kind of disappeared from my mind. So
Yeah.
it was really, really quick to pick up and get back into it. Really quick.
And there will be pre-gens, which sounds kind of a little dull, but it's not, because you've got a whole host of things to choose, and they're so flavoursome. It's very, very cool. Um, so anyway, that was last night, and I've got some ideas about twisted narratives tabletop as well, how we can sort of incorporate that into that, which I won't go on about. Okay, so it's about 10 minutes into the 6 o'clock club now, and let us talk about the main event. Let's talk about Pathfinder Second Edition. And we've got a lot of questions that have been put on our Discord. Let me stick that Discord link into the chat now. You'll have to excuse me. I know that we can sort of program it.
And under the tavern, which is one of the sections of the chat, there is a chit chat section at the top, and just under that is a 6 o'clock club. And now you're making me do it. The
Yeah,
6 o'clock club channel. If you have any questions or anything you want to chat, ask for, if you're watching on YouTube or later, pop them in there, and we'll more than happily ignore them.
yeah.
Get to them.
Get to them is what you meant to say. So I've just popped the Discord link in there. That is for Twisted Narratives Discord. It's where our community hang out. Come and say hi. We run a lot of games here. Um, but we're also about community. We're also about hanging out, having fun, talking about movies, TV, and everything else in between, really. So you are more than welcome to join us. Um, so on our Discord, we had some questions about Pathfinder. I'm planning to potentially do a sort of one shot, or certainly a bit beginner box starter adventure, potentially Sunday if we get some players. And there's a degree of hesitance, and totally understandable. It can be quite daunting, especially when you've played one system perhaps for a very, very long time, and you kind of feel there's a whole host of things to learn. There's a whole amount of money perhaps needed to be spent, and to a degree, maybe you're right, but it's not exactly the way. And hopefully, I'm going to show you where you can gather resources. I'm going to show you some YouTube channels that you might like, you might not like them. YouTube is very much a matter of taste. Some people like certain YouTubers, some people don't get on with them. um, Broken Fang says if you play D&D, you convert the rules easily enough. Absolutely. I mean, the history of Pathfinder 1 is always close to being a clone of 3.5, Dungeons and
Yeah.
Dragons
Just
3.5.
fix the skill system.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you look back in history, third edition D&D came out and it wasn't particularly a hit. So they made 3.5, that they called it, and that was very successful. 3.5 did have an open gaming license, but Wizards of the Coast decided they wanted to do fourth edition, and there was quite a big gap between 3.5 and fourth edition coming out. And during this time, Paizo decided to produce legally with the open gaming license Pathfinder, and it was a huge success, an absolute huge success, and well deserved as well. Um, since then, years later, they've done a second edition, and they've also done a science fiction game called Starfinder, um, and that's equally as good. It's kind of linked to Pathfinder 2 or Pathfinder, but kind of in the far future. But you can play it completely independent to it. Broken Fan said second edition Pathfinder changes the action system and has the magic can feel a little clunky at first, but it's good. Have played through a 20 level campaign, about 5 levels into another. Well, that's good
Wow,
recommendations,
that's
absolutely.
impressive.
Um, a lot of the mechanics you will be familiar with. It's a D20 system. Um,
Standard
uh,
stats of strength,
yeah,
dexterity,
uh,
constitution, intelligence, wisdom, charisma.
absolutely. You have saving throws, you have attack rolls. The numbers do get bigger, so armor classes get much bigger than in fifth edition. Um, but I'll come on to the mechanics in a minute if we've got time, because a lot of the questions was, well, what do I
Yeah,
do?
where do I start? I
How?
just as a side note, I went to Amazon earlier
Hmm.
and I put Pathfinder 2E
Hmm.
in, and the the results are crazy.
Yeah,
I've got like Dark Archive Pocket Edition, RPG Treasure Vault,
yeah,
Crown of the Cobalt. Where do I start? There's an advanced player's guide. I
yeah.
guess it's not that, but
Well,
where do I start with Pathfinder?
well, what we do is we take our ugly mugs off here,
Hey, I resemble that.
and we do that. So, Pathfinder's beginner box. It is an amazing product. Um, I'm not here to tell you what you should buy or shouldn't buy. First and foremost, um, all of the Pathfinder rule sets and information on spells, monsters, well, everything can be obtained free from uh, an official website that they support, which I will put a link in here. It's called the Archives of Nethys, and let me put that in here. So first and foremost, you can go there. It's not laid out like a book. You have to fundamentally do searches for it. Um, but that will take you hopefully, because I just copied the link earlier, to the free resource of Pathfinder. Um, Secondly, certainly if you play in my games, you don't need to purchase anything because I already have it all on Fantasy Grounds. We've got pre-generated characters, and we can work on creating characters anyway. But if you don't play in my games, if you're looking for an entry into it and you don't mind investing a little bit of money, and you are very much a new player, or even just a new GM, because again, they've done this beginner box beautifully. I did do a sort of box opening on Monday, but I was very, very rapid because it wasn't the crux of what the 6 o'clock club was on the Monday night. And we've got a little bit of luxury now. So what you've got there is the Fancy Grounds version, which I also have, but I do also have. I'm going to bring us back in a minute. So I'm going to pop us back. You see Fancy Grounds behind it, but I don't care. The actual physical beginners box as well, which I tend to buy physical products because A, it supports local gaming stores, but B, um,
They're lovely.
I just love physical products. I can't do without it on Fantasy Grounds, which is my virtual tabletop of choice where I run my games. So I purchase it on there. So I buy products kind of twice. That's overkill, but it's necessary for my job. Um, I will be showing you in a minute, kind of through the beginner box on Fantasy Grounds because it's a lot easier than to do it with the physical product. But just as a gain, I mean, these are the blank character sheets. I don't know whether you can see that here. And you can see in the beginner's box, they've spelt everything out. They've color coded the dice. They've kind of telling you about the action economy of how your turns work. Um, it's different from Dungeons and Dragons, and it could be argued that it's slightly better. I don't want this to be a conversation of, well, which one's better. Each of them have their own strengths.
It's just
Uh,
different.
yeah,
It's just different.
but in Pathfinder, you have basically on your turn three actions. So you've got three things that you can do. Now, some of the things you do might take two actions, or might even take three actions if it's something quite big. Um, but that also includes move. So it's not like you get, as you do in D&D, an action, a bonus action, and a move
A
action.
move.
You get three actions. One of that, I'm going to move, then I'm going to do something, and then I'm going to move again, or I'm going to move, I'm going to do something a little bigger, and then that's the end of my turn. You can technically attack if you've got an attack that is a one action on your turn. You can potentially attack three times.
Really?
Yeah, but
Okay.
the clever
Oh,
thing
all right. Here we
is,
go.
is that the more frequently attack on your turn, the more modifiers against your success
Ah,
becomes.
yeah,
So it doesn't get
yeah.
overpowered. It doesn't kind
That's
of
good.
go, oh, all right, well, wow, that's just crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Can see a wizard. I'm going to attack 3 times with my dagger because it's
yeah,
more powerful than this spell.
no. The maths is strung in this. I feel like Yoda. Uh, the maths is strung
The
in this
maths is
one.
strong in this.
They know what they're doing, and again, the differences between all of the classes as you go through the levels is incredibly well balanced. You never feel like, oh, I must play this class or this subclass because I'm going to be underpowered, which is good. There is so much sort of modular design to it in the fact that you have ancestries, which is race. They chose the term ancestry. I think that was a sensible choice. You obviously have class as well, and you have your sort of abilities, but you have in effect subclasses with it as well. But you also have feats in effect, and these can sort of add on and completely make your character unique. So you could technically have a party of all fighters, and they could be completely
The
sort of
best kind of
different.
party.
Yeah, completely sort of different. So that has its challenges. The more options you give, the more choices you have, and the more choices you have, the more overwhelming it can feel. So I would certainly recommend if you're new to it, um, unless you're kind of the type of player who likes that choice of options and really wants to throw themselves into all of the books and start sort of cherry picking and planning. Some people do plan from level 1 to level
Not
20.
not me.
No. Um, um, but if you just want to learn the game, the pre-gens are really nicely done, and you get two books. Again, I'm going to show you. You get this one here, which is the beginner box heroes handbook, and then you get the game masters book as well. Now, what's interesting here is I've spoken to a few people about it, and if you've got the kind of set of players that um, like to take their time with the game. This small product here, I think it cost me 30 odd quid, maybe. I don't know. I brought it quite a while ago. Um, 3 months sort of solid play. If people are role playing, especially if the GM is going to throw some in additional encounters and stuff. In the Game Master's book, you get a bestiary. So I'm going to show you this on Fantasy Grounds because it comes. So you've got all these other monsters. I mean, this is technically your DM's guide and your monster manual in one. For levels 1 to 3, it's absolutely fantastic. And then the player's handbook tells you all about the feats, how the rules sort of work at different levels, and also, which is very very cool, it's actually got pirates, kings, plunder, and right at the start of the player's book, this is a solo adventure. So,
very nice.
so you can play through that,
I love
and
that.
yeah, it's not extensive, but it really is flavoursome and just gets you. Oh yes, I want to do this. So all in all, bang for your buck. Um, it's
I think I've got a question about it
yeah,
though. Like, so with Pathfinder, with D&D, you've got a progression. You level up. So at X hit points, and then at some other arbitrary number, another arbitrary number. How does it work in Pathfinder? Is it the same? Is it
yeah,
experience points
more or
or
less. I mean, experience points is the currency to level up. You do level up, and like I say, there's a degree of choices. You do go up. You can multi-class if you want to, and it's very very similar to fifth edition in that way, mainly because um, it basically came from 3.5
yeah,
and has developed. They certainly haven't gone out of their way to copy fifth edition in any way. It's got substantially probably more archetypes, more different type of character classes, certainly a whole host of additional sort of feats and everything else. So whilst I would say it is a high fantasy role play system, um, and you should be able to replicate more or less the type of character that you perhaps have played in fifth ed previously. There's so many more options to be able to create many more different things, really.
that's really really interesting. I guess a follow up question is: so with D&D, I'm looking at my D, all my D&D books are there. With D&D, you've got the player's handbook, the monster manual, DM's guide. So if I'm a prospective DM and I played through this box, obviously I don't know if it mentions the other books, but what would be the next step? What's
Well,
the
there's a core
point
rule
after
book,
that? Okay.
basically, and the core rule book fundamentally gives you everything you really need to progress to level 20, basically. Um, Beyond that, I mean, that is essential for the table. It's not necessarily essential for everybody to have, but it's essential if you're
Yeah.
going off to run the game to have that. If you want to progress beyond third level, um, and then they've released an awful lot of add-on books, and like you said, um, there's a whole sort of gamut of choice there. Now, a lot of them, I would say close to 50%, are actually more or less lore books about their own game world,
Right.
and are not needed at all unless you are playing in that. And well, I mean, I love them. Um, uh,
It seems that
whilst,
they've spent a lot of time building up their own
yeah,
world and their own characters. I mean, I do own the original Pathfinder book, and I notice in the again I'm pointing at my screen, in that cover of the beginner box, some of the characters there are ones I recognise.
yeah,
That's kind of their archetypes. I mean, it's very third edition, because I know in third edition of D&D, I've got my third edition starter set over there that I never ever got to use.
Yeah,
But the box you showed me yesterday was very reminiscent of that, with maps and player guide and pre-gen characters.
yeah. So, I mean, for instance, this is like one of their lore books. It's Absalom. It's very big. This is like their main city. Um, it's beautiful. It's well thought out. There's so many things that you can cherry pick from it. I mean, I don't run a huge amount of Pathfinder, obviously, but I've got book upon book upon book because they're inspiring. The lore is really, really flavoursome. The art is absolutely amazing. Um, but you don't need to. You don't. There is no need to do this. Um, I'm not an expert, and I'm certainly not here to sell you Pathfinder 2. I think it's a very great system, just like I think 5th edition is a great system. If you are happy with what is happening currently and you're not looking to change, then there's no need to change. 5th edition is going to be around for a very long time, and people are going to get a huge amount of pleasure out of it. But some people sometimes there's within the zeitgeist there's a feel, oh, now's a good time to try something out, and it can just be, I'm going to try this out and then I'm going to go back to 5th edition and I'm going to try something else. There's a whole host of different sort of systems out there. So I've got a few links for you really as well, because I'm capable of running the game. I'm going to sort of certainly show you. Let me see if I can do this, and boom, boom.
And just whilst you're doing that, read out from the chat. So
Yeah,
Brokefang has said that HP per level is fixed, so you don't get that very sad one HP on your barbarian. Yes, I had that as a bard once, not bard, as a ranger. I ended up having the lowest HP in the party because of my poor
yeah,
rolls. That was in a 3.5 game. And even if you don't use their setting, the class books are really good.
yeah,
Most of them have strong flavor to the archetypes in them, which again is really, I mean, as you say, Andy, these books provide so much richness to the world more than anything else, which,
yeah.
yeah, it's really, it sounds really good.
They're beautiful. So in terms of kind of research that I've done, there's some very well informed individuals on a YouTube channel called Roll for Combat. They've been involved in the design of Pathfinder. They've got a particular entitled YouTube video called "Switching from Dungeons and Dragons to Pathfinder." It's long, but it's informative. If you've got the time, I would recommend people go across to Roll for Combat, have a look at their content and that video in particular. In terms of other things, there is Paizo on sort of YouTube, and they do some actual plays, um, and that is very, very useful as well. The, there's a sort of mini campaign of the beginner's box done by Jim Roadhaver. He's a great GM, um, but he's got a group of uh, I need to be kind here, celebrity players that are unfamiliar with the system. Um, so it's the perfect opportunity as he patiently sort of explains to them how the system works. It's informative, it's entertaining. Um, it will give spoilers from the beginner's box, but if you're looking for something to kind of watch people sort of playing it live and kind of learning from their actions, definitely recommend going to their YouTube channel, seeking out the playlist with Jim or James in, and checking those out. I say it's particularly good just because he has to kind of be patient and go through the rules with the players somewhat. It doesn't make the game particularly clunky, but it is very informative because of that. I'm not sure whether that was deliberate or whether it is just a fallout. Then I'm going to put some other socials of Pazio as well. Uh, all of
Paizo.
these Paizo. I'm terrible with names. Paizo. Here we go.
We forgive you for it, though.
So you've got their Twitter, you've got their Twitch, you've got their Instagram, and sorry, and Facebook as well. I'm not well. I am promoting them because the questions are where do I start, and rather than you having to rapidly search for all this information, it is all here for you to dip into, should you wish to, and make your own informed decision. Um,
So when are
last,
you running the beginner box, Andy? Sorry to
yeah,
cut
yeah.
in.
I mean, we've got a game scheduled for Sunday morning. We've got a few players that are sort of interested. Um, we'll see. I say I want people to play what they want to play. Um, I'm here. I like the system. I think the system is very, very sound. I think it is a good. Um, if you like your fancy role playing, you like your D20 systems, it's a perfect sort of switch from Fifth Ed if you want to try something that is like Fifth Ed but not the same. Um, and yeah, I'm very keen to sort of use all of these products that I've got. There's
That's why. That's the only reason why you're plugging it. You bought a shed load of Pathfinder stuff, and now, well,
I buy it.
you want to get to use it.
Yeah, I buy it as it comes out because I very much like it. Last
I
but
did
not
the same
least,
for years
yeah,
with D&D.
yeah. Last but not least, there's a couple of YouTubers. No Nat Ones has got quite a large following and um, with advice, and then we've got the Glass Cannon Network, which have become a huge success over the last few years, and they started off with Pathfinder just as a podcast, I think, more than even an actual visual, just voices. Um, they've become famous now, and they cover all sorts of different games, and they certainly the thing that I draw from watching their shows is they are on the whole a group of friends having fun round a table. You know, they've become a little more slick over the years, um, but they've still retained that love of the game, and I suppose the kids of today would call it banter. But there's certainly a lot that sort of goes on there. Um, and that's it with my sort of pointers and recommendations for you to find your own path, to become your own pathfinder, and to see whether this is something that you might like. We've got a few minutes left before we need to
We do, we
uh,
do.
skip the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some of the images from.
Oh, I mean, I don't know if you can share it. Oh, I mean, you showed the map the other day. I love a good map. I
Yeah,
know that might be spoilers though, but if there's an initial
uh,
area or anything like that, I love
we
a
can
map.
do this. As you can see, I've for the modules that you get when you purchase off Fancy Grounds, you've got the start here. They've separated it quite nicely. You've got the pre-generated characters, which don't have. I'll get the characters from here actually. Um, which will give you a feel fundamentally. You can drop your own image in here. You can change your character's name because they're pre-gen, but just as if you're playing any other system, you would roll your dexterity, which will give you +2 there. If you're using, your dagger, That is your damage. And you see here there's 3 different boxes, and that's fundamentally when you multi-attack.
Oh,
So,
that's handy. That's
so,
really handy.
certainly on Fantasy Grounds, um, the math is done for you basically. Um,
Yeah.
so that is the pre-gens. They've separated to the This is the contents here. Pirates King Plunder. So like very first entry, you kind of read the setup, and so on Fantasy Grounds it is really good because you would just click here to go to entry 13. You can see there's 25 entries in total.
Oh,
It's
it's
not a
like a choose your
massive.
own adventure.
Yeah, yeah.
Ah,
It's a little sort of solo thing to get your creative juices going and get you ready for it. And then we've got the Hero's Handbook, which obviously has all of these, but we can go to the reference manual here, and it has all of the things that you would expect creating your hero, backgrounds. So you wouldn't need to necessarily use the pre-gens in the beginner box if you didn't want. You've got a very basic version of the larger cool rule book here, how to play the game, how to level up, and this does, I believe, take your characters from level 1 to level 3.
I think just to cut in with some comments from the chat,
Mhm.
Brokefanger said that if people use Roll20, which I will say is my tabletop of choice because I have players that can't use Fantasy Grounds
Yeah.
Unity, the Pathfinder sheet on there also has first, second, and third attack buttons, which again is really useful because the D&D sheet, if you have an offhand weapon, it doesn't do that. You have to code it yourself. And Smash Plant has said, "Are the lore books good for learning how to build your own city or world?"
It's a very good question. I suppose the simple answer is yes. Not that it tells you how to do that. Um, you're not going to be able to see this because I need to switch views again. But let us do that and let us come back. So this is like the very thick law book that is about their city. And what it fundamentally has in is a city. Um, and you don't need to be particularly bright or clever to sort of copy that information, like, oh yeah, so it's split into districts. If you wanted to make something completely fresh, what you can do, and what often I do, is I take inspiration either from the images or actually from the content. And whilst at the moment I haven't got anything set in Absalom because we don't run a Pathfinder, certainly I've used some of that content in the smoke in Faerun, in Waterdeep, in Baldur's Gate, and everything else. It really gets your creative juices flowing, and um, I buy an awful lot of product. I'm very lucky because it's my job, and even if I don't run that thing, it just inspires me. We are blessed with thousands of really, really good creative people out there
Yeah,
working for.
I,
Sorry.
I would say, sorry, on the back of that, there are people like for maps and things. Again, a personal favorite of mine, Tom Kartos, just great maps. And actually, if you wanted to look for something for free, 2 great resources I use are Donjon. I think it's donjon.net or something like that. There is a random city generator, and I have used that many times as a basis for a good city. It is directed towards more of the D20 systems and Dungeons and Dragons, but it's usable with anything. And DM Academy on Reddit. The DM Academy is got a whole wealth of resources on there to help new GMs and GMs that want to help build things out. There's so much information out there. But yeah, Don John is the one I keep returning to again and again.
Yeah.
So there are lots of free resources out there. But as Andy says, the books are really good at giving you extra flavor you can borrow.
Well, I mean, it's designed for that. The writers and the designers, they want you to use this. They want people to be inspired by it, and I think it's highly unlikely that anyone who writes for a role play game system supplement um, fully expects it only to be used for that one purpose. I mean, it's like a GM railroading the party because he's had this idea or they have had this idea, and they're going to enforce it regardless of what the players actually want to do. These writers, these artists are putting this out there to inspire uh, to inspire people really, and it's fantastic. And I suppose uh, this is the big problem. And it all comes back currently to what is trying to happen with the open gaming license. If the leak is to believe, they are trying to stop this. All of this stuff. All of this stuff would not have happened if it wasn't for the original open gaming license. We wouldn't be having this conversation now if it wasn't because WotC is trying to change the open gaming license.
So what you're saying is everyone needs to play Shadowrun.
Yeah.
Understood, Addy. Everyone needs to play Shadowrun.
Shadowrun is an amazing world setting.
Yes,
I
it's a
love it to
terrible role
pieces.
playing game, but a great role setting.
The system um,
It needs
is
love.
clunky, and some people love that. Some people love that. I'll leave you on this thought. There was I can't remember exactly what system it was. It was very niche, um, but it calculated if you were to shoot like a sniper rifle, it would calculate the wind, the
Coriolis effect.
distance, everything else. A single shot could take 2 hours to work out the maths. This is going back right to the very beginnings of this. Some people loved it, because it was fairly accurate. It was done by people that loved math. Um, it certainly wasn't cinematic as you spent 2 hours kind of doing all of this mathematics. But those games exist, and fair play if that is the thing that inspires you. There's nothing wrong with it. And some people like in-depth rules like Shadowrun.
Not me.
Absolutely,
I love Shadowrun, and
yeah,
I run a game every week, and I have done. Well, I've run a game with yourself, and I run a game with other people.
yeah,
Absolutely love it, but I just don't have time to deal with 3 games at once, which is what you can get at times. So,
absolutely.
who needs
Anyway,
rules?
yeah. I am running out of time because at 7 o'clock I've got a date with Fortunes Untold. So thank you very much for watching. I've tried to find out appropriate sort of links um, for you. I hope they are useful. Please pop into our Discord and tell me your thoughts on them. If you are interested in giving it a go, there's a taster game on Sunday morning. Um, it's great, it's great. In many ways, especially with my style of play, I think you'll play the game and you'll probably go, it didn't really feel any different to Dungeons and Dragons, and that is not saying that Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons is bad. They're very, very close. The system works slightly differently, um, but if you like your fantasy games, yeah, go for it. Absolutely. I don't think anybody would be disappointed. Absolutely, in giving it a go. You're not betraying one brand over another. You can eat all of the ice cream, and I think that is what we will leave it with. All of
Go
the
eat
ice
all the
cream
ice cream
is
to the
good.
freezer.
Absolutely. So, yeah, thank you very much. Let me know in the comments any ideas that you've got, whether you think this has been useful, the kind of things that you might have liked to um, hear from us. We might do a follow-up to this if you need questions to be answered once you go away and do a little bit of research yourself. But in the meantime, it is now 10 to 7. So for the moment, it's goodbye from me, and
It's goodbye from him.
yeah, see what we did.
We spend too much time together.
Yeah. I'm just going to turn you